Members of the jury, let us move from the charges and the expert witness to the evidence. The evidence will be presented through 5 exhibits. Each exhibit builds upon the last. Together they show a pattern. A Sikh leader was visible. He was a leader of Khalistan referendum, campaign for Canada. He was assassinated on Canadian soil. Canada publicly raised credible allegations. Investigative reporting showed the planned nature of the attack, and Canadian officials continued to raise concerns in 2024. International reporting showed that this was not an isolated concern, but part of a broader pattern involving Sikh activists in the West. Exhibit A is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's first public statement to Parliament regarding the killing of Shaheed Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Over the past number of weeks, Canadians...
In this exhibit, as you guys heard, the Prime Minister of Canada stands before the Parliament and tells the country that Canadian security credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of Shaheed Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Those very agents he's talking about are on display in front of you. Those words matter. Canada does not make a statement like that lightly. This was not a rumor or a mere fling. This was the Prime Minister of Canada speaking in Parliament about the assassination of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil. And Shaheed Hardeep Singh Nijjar was not an unknown man. He was a Canadian Sikh. And as lead of the Khalistan referendum campaign, he was spearheading the Sikh nation's need and wants for Khalistan. His voice mattered, his position mattered, his activism mattered, and the prosecution says that this is exactly why he was targeted. Exhibit B is the CBC documentary, Contract to Kill.
On this of the 5th estate, a murder in Surrey, British Columbia has sparked a diplomatic crisis between Canada and India.
Any involvement of a foreign government in the killing of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil is an unacceptable violation of our sovereignty.
The brazen killing on Father's Day of a man outside his place of worship would reveal a story many might not know is happening in Canada, an independence movement to create a country on the other side of the world.
That's the reason they killed Nijjar. That's the reason they wanted to kill you.
We gained exclusive access to the front lines of that movement.
This little snippet shows the setting. This was not random chaos. It shows planning and it shows coordination. It shows that Hardeep Singh Nijjar was living a place of prayer and community when he was attacked. It shows that he was killed on Father's Day. A husband, a son, and a father taken from his family for speaking up for his community. Members of the jury, the location matters. This was an attack on Hardeep Singh Nijjar, but it was also an attack on a nation that will not stop talking and will not stop fighting for its freedom. Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara was not just where Shaheed Nijjar served as president. It was not just where he prayed. It was just not where the Sangat gathered. It was not just the location of where people would go during COVID to get any necessities, where he would spearhead the volunteerism and give out food, necessities to those in need all around the community, regardless of race, language, religion, or anything. It was a symbol of Sikh life in Canada. And when a Sikh leader, the Khalistan referendum lead for the Canadian campaign, was assassinated outside the Gurdwara, the message was not sent to one man alone, and it was clearly sent to the community. It was clearly sent to the Sikh activists who till this day are given duty to warrants by RCMP. It is sent to every Sikh, every person who believed that Canada was beyond the reach of foreign repression. Exhibit C is Prime Minister Trudeau's second public statement in 2024.
It is obvious that the government of India
a fundamental error in thinking that they could engage in supporting criminal activity against Canadians here on Canadian soil.
What we consider to be a very permissive Canadian act.
The exhibit shows that Canadian. They continued, and they continue to this day. They grew stronger. Instead, the public record expanded. By 2024, the Canadian government was again speaking publicly about India, foreign interference, and violent criminal activity connected to the safety of Canadians. This matters because the prosecution is not asking you to look at one isolated moment. We are asking you to look at the pattern that India is showing you. A Sikh leader is assassinated in Canada. Canada raises credible allegations. India denies involvement. Then Canada continues to speak publicly about the matters because the concern did not go away. Exhibit D is the global news report from the West Bloc on May 5th, 2024.
Of an alleged foreign hit squad accused of carrying out a brazen public assassination on Canadian soil are now in police custody. But are there links to a foreign intelligence agency? And what does it mean for our national security? I'm Mercedes Stevenson. The West Bloc starts now.
Suspects were arrested and charged for their alleged involvement in the killing of Mr. Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
Arrests in the politically charged happened after months of investigation. Who are the alleged killers and how did they get into Canada? We'll ask Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc. And the highly anticipated report on
Global News reports on the foreign interference inquiry and the RCMP arrest connected to the killing of Shahid Hardeep Singh Nijjar. The report by RCMP discusses suspected foreign hitmen in the 2023 killing of BC Sikh leader and the alleged ties being investigated. Members of the jury, this is important. The killing was not treated as an ordinary street crime. It was treated as something larger. It was treated as a case that touched national security. It was treated as a case that raised questions about whether foreign governments can intimidate, threat, and target people living inside Canada. This exhibit supports the charge of accessory to assassination because it points to coordination. It supports the allegation of logistics, intelligence, because it places the killing in a wider framework of planning, surveillance, and again, foreign interference. It supports the prosecution's argument that Shahid Hardeep Singh Nijjar's killing was not connected to his political role, was connected to his political role in his advocacy for Khalistan. These death squads have not stopped since. There's a growing number of extortions and crimes being committed by Indian agents since then and have grown since then. Exhibit E is the Bloomberg documentary Inside the Deaths That Rocked India's Relation with the West.
According to U.S. prosecutors, a murder-for-hire plot unfolding in New York City against one of Hardeep Singh Nijjar's close friends.
The only thing I knew at that time is that my life is in danger.
And the governments of the US, of Canada, concluded that the murder of Mr. Nijjar and the targeting of Mr. Pannu were initiated by people in some way connected to the government of India, which was angered by their involvement in something known as the Khalistan movement, the campaign for the Sikh religion to have an independent homeland in Punjab in northwest India. India has said allegations it was involved in Nijjar's killing are absurd. It has stopped the extradition and arrest of some Sikh separatists due to what it says are links to terrorism.
The issue is not about freedom of expression, but advocating violence and legitimizing terrorism.
People in Sikh campaign for independence around the world do have a habit of turning up dead.
Balanjeet Singh Pajwan was shot dead.
UK-based Sikh campaigner has died in the early hours of this morning.
Police say the killing of a man outside a Sikh temple Sunday.
Now the pattern becomes more clearer.
Incidents at the Gurdwara. And then Prime Minister Trudeau raises concerns of credible allegations of Indian interference. And then we see the same thing happening in America. Then we see hit death squads being sent out. This pattern is becoming more and more clear to the jury. India will not stop, instead it has grown. This shows that the concern was not limited to Canada. It shows that the assassination of Shahid Nijjar was, and other plots involve Sikh activists, created a diplomatic crisis involving India, Canada, and the United States. Again, members of the jury, this matters. Because when a Sikh activist is assassinated in Canada and another Sikh activist is targeted in the United States, we are no longer looking at one isolated act. We are again looking at a pattern. Now, these quote-unquote diplomats allege that Hardeep Singh Nijjar was a criminal, he was inciting violence. But prior to 3 years ago, Hardeep Singh Nijjar would stand on these very steps and he would advocate peacefully and rightfully so under the Canadian Charter for a separate Sikh state, for rights for the Sikhs. He was not a criminal. He was a Sikh father, a son. He was a brother. He was an uncle. He was a friend to many here. And he was killed because he continued to speak about what was wrong. India tried to silence him. They continue to silence others. They will not stop until we hold these quote-unquote diplomats responsible. These diplomats disguise themselves as law-abiding, when in actuality they are spies and they are the ones that are growing these criminal networks. Shahid Hardeep Singh Nijjar was the leader of the very campaign that angers Indian diplomats, that angers the state. He was the leader of the Khalistan referendum in Canada. He was not merely a supporter. He was not merely a voice in the background, he was the leader. Many of those who have gathered here today will tell you that he would meet you with an open smile and an open hug. He invited everyone to invoke their right to a peaceful protest, and he would bring many with him here. That was not a criminal. That was a leader, and that was a member of the community. The title that he was given as leader of that very campaign is very important. It shows again why he was visible. It shows the voice carried weight. It shows why Indian government knew who he was. And it shows why the prosecution says he was targeted. Members of the jury, when we place these exhibits together, they tell a very clear story. A Sikh leader advocates for Khalistan. He serves as the lead of the Khalistan referendum for Canada. He becomes known to his community. He becomes known to the Indian government. And then he's assassinated outside the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara. Canada's Prime Minister, as we all heard, publicly raises credible allegations involving agents of the government of India. CBC's documentary shows the killing as planned and targeted. Canada continues to speak publicly about the matter in 2024. Global News connects the arrests and foreign interference inquiry to the Nijjar case. And Bloomberg places the assassination within a wider international pattern involving Sikh activists in Canada and the United States. These are not disconnected pieces. As much as these quote-unquote diplomats try to tell you that, they are a chain, they are a pattern. They are the reason why the Citizens Court has gathered here today. The prosecution is not asking you to believe that this assassination happened in isolation. The prosecution is not telling you to believe that this is a killing of this nature occurred without information, without planning. The prosecution asks you to look at the role of logistics and intelligence. Logistics means practical support that makes a plan possible. It can mean helping identifying locations. It can mean helping understand movement patterns. It can mean helping communicate information. It can mean supporting the chain that connects those who plan to those who execute. Intelligence means information. information about a target, information about a schedule, information about a location, information about a community activity, information about who was visible and who was influential, and who was considered a political threat. The prosecution alleges that Shaheed Hardeep Singh Nijjar was not targeted because of his public role as a lead, was targeted because of his public role as lead of the Khalistan referendum campaign in Canada. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the accused officials before the Citizens Court are alleged to have used those very specific official positions, the diplomatic access that their title gives them, and intelligence linked between networks to assist this targeting. Dinesh Patnaik is named before the Citizens Court as Indian High Commissioner to Canada. The prosecution alleges that his office and position represent diplomatic structure through which accountability must be examined. Sanjay Kumar Verma is named before the Citizens Court as expelled Indian High Commissioner to Canada. The prosecution alleges that his diplomatic position placed him within the chain of official responsibility and again connected the climate of surveillance, intimidation, targeting alleged by Canadian authorities. Manish is named before the Citizens Court as former Consul General of India in Vancouver. The prosecution alleges that his position in Vancouver matters because Vancouver and Surrey were central to Shaheed Nijjar's life, community work, Gurdwara leadership, and the Khalistan referendum organization. Kanwaljit is named before the Citizen Court as the expelled RAW official based in Vancouver. The prosecution alleges that his intelligence-linked role matters because this is a case fundamentally about intelligence. We need to understand who gathered it, who shared it, and how it allegedly was used. Members of the jury, this is the heart of the culpability. Others may have carried out the physical act, but the prosecution alleges that the assassination was made possible by something larger, by intelligence, by logistics, information access, by a system that identified a Sikh leader in Canada and treated its political work as a threat. An accessory does not need to be the person who physically carries out the final act. An accessory is culpable because they make the crime possible. They assisted, they enabled it, they supported it, and they contribute to the chain. Without that chain, the crime may not have happened. The prosecution alleges that the accused officials were part of that chain. The prosecution alleges that they were not distant observers. They were not neutral diplomats as they should be. They were not disconnected from these events. They were diplomats that did not do their job. They are accused of being part of the structure that provided the logistics and intelligence used to target Shaheed Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Members of the jury, remember who Nijjar was. He was a Canadian citizen, he was a Sikh, he was a Gurdwara president, he was the head of the Khalistan referendum campaign for Canada. He was the lead coordinator of a political campaign. He had a public role, he had a public voice, and he had a public cause. And because of that, the prosecution alleges that he was placed under scrutiny, targeted, and assassinated. The accused officials had diplomatic positions. They had access, they had networks, they had proximity to official channels. The prosecution alleges that these tools were not used to protect peace, they were used to assist repression. They were used to support the targeting of a Canadian Sikh leader. They were used to help make that assassination possible. Members of the jury, this is why the charge is accessory to assassination. Because the prosecution's case is that the accused provided the logistics and again, the intelligence. They connected the political hostility to operational support. They connected the desire to silence Shaheed Nijjar with a practical means to target him. This is culpability, and this is responsibility. And this is why the prosecution asks you to find these accused guilty as charged, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have heard the charges, you have seen the exhibits, you have heard the evidence, you have heard the witnesses speak to motive. You can see the community come out in numbers and show their support even to this day, 3 years after his murder. The goal of the diplomats was to silence him. The goal of the diplomats was to stop his campaign. And as we can see here today, that campaign has continued and will flourish. Now I ask you to step back and look at this full picture. This case is about power. It's about whether diplomatic positions can be used as cover for intimidation. It's about whether foreign officials can reach into Canada and help make political speech punishable by death. It's about whether Sikh activists can be assassinated here. And the world simply moves on. It's about whether Canada is a truly safe for people who believe, challenge powerful governments abroad. Hardeep Singh Nijjar was a Canadian citizen. That should have meant something. He lived in a country that promises freedom. That should have meant something. He served in a Gurdwara that provided for a community, and that should have meant something. He helped organize his community. That should have meant something. He was the lead of the Khalistan referendum campaign in Canada, and that should never have made him a target. But on June 18th, 2023, outside Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara, his life was taken. And after his assassination, the public record did not point to a simple random act. It was not a simple crime. It pointed to credible allegations, it pointed to planning, it pointed to coordination, and it pointed to arrests. It pointed to foreign interference. It points to wider threats, it points to diplomatic expulsions. It pointed to a similar pattern involving Sikh activists beyond Canada. Members of the jury, one fact alone may be questioned, one headline alone may be debated, one statement alone may be denied. But when all of these pieces are placed together, the story becomes crystal clear. Shaheed Hardeep Singh Nijjar was not targeted by accident. He was targeted because he was visible. He was targeted because he was organized. And he was targeted because he was the lead of the Khalistan referendum campaign in Canada. And the prosecution alleges that the accused officials helped make that targeting possible. They may hide behind the diplomatic language. They may hide behind diplomatic cover. But we are here to unmask these spies for who they truly are. They're the ones that are executing the terror in Canada. They're the ones that are still acting on crime and targeting Canadian citizens. They may hide behind the distance as well, and they may hide behind denial, but this citizens' court exists because the people have a right to name what had happened. And people have a right to seek accountability. The people have a right to say that political assassination on Canada's soil cannot be normalized, because this is Canada. This is not India, where law does not exist. This is not India, where if a political opinion is not supported, you are killed. This is Canada. This is where freedom is allowed. This is where your voice is allowed to be spoken, even if it's against a political opinion. Dinesh K. Patnaik, Sanjay Kumar Verma, Manish, and Kanwaljit. The charge is accessory to the assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. The prosecution alleges that these accused officials provided logistics and intelligence to the shooters who carried out the assassination. The prosecution alleges that they formed part of the chain that connected the political motive to violent action. The prosecution alleges that they used diplomatic and intelligence-linked positions not to uphold peace, but to assist in the repression. Members of the jury, this was not a killing of one man. That has been the motif of this case. That has been the motif of the day. This is not one man, this is a movement. As you can see here, Hardeep Singh Nijjar lives through everyone that came in to support him today. He will continue to live on with them because India tried to silence him, silence his voice. Now we must represent him. His killing took place at a place of worship, at the very place where he spoke out against political repression. That was not just a killing, that was a message to the Sikh activists, a message to the Khalistan referendum campaign in Canada, a message to every person who believed that Canada would protect them from the hand of a foreign government. But today, this court sends back a message that fear will not be the final word, that silence will not be the final word, and that power will not be allowed to hide behind distance, office, diplomatic immunity, or denial. The accused may not physically be present, but the consequences of the alleged actions are present. They are present in the grief of the Sikh community, They are present in the constant warnings given to the activists to this day. They are present in the memory of Shaheed Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Your Honor, I rest my case and I urge you to return the verdict of guilty.
The court would like to thank you for your execution. And members of the jury, you've heard all the evidence of the case. The court would ask you to proceed with deliberations and to only return when you've come to a decision. You may proceed.